Hello, we're really happy to be here. My name is Caleb Duarte. This is me, Ivrala. We're from Chiapas, and we started a space down there. We're going to share it with you guys.
In the fall of 2009, over 100 displaced indigenous community members occupied the offices of the United Nations, located in San Cristobal de las Casas, Chiapas, Mexico. The offices were taken over in hopes of gaining international attention from humanitarian organizations. After a few months of the occupation, the United Nations simply decided to find another building and moved. A few months later, two artists that had become disillusioned with the institutional proposed purpose of art wished to believe that art could be a radical form of communication, and soon moved into the building and began an experimental art space in an intercultural residency of diverse practices. They began to invite artists, activists, cultural workers, inventors, gardeners, PhDs, jugglers, and educators to take part in creating an experiment on art and social change. The group of artists, disenchanted by continuing linear path of art history, came to EDELO in favor of art as a vehicle for possible transformation. Inspired by the 1994 indigenous Zapatista uprising, where word and poetry are used to inspire a generation to imagine other worlds possible, EDELO has retained the name of the UN. It is a part of an investigation of how art, in all its disciplines and contradictions, can take the supposed role of such institutional bodies in creating understanding, empathy, and to serve as a tool for imagining alternatives to what seem to be a harmful and violent system that we have come to accept.
So with a little bit of seed money, we rented the offices where the United Nations used to be without the need to define or establish a clear agenda. It still has taken us for over 2 years to even craft a mission statement that's convincible. We knew that we didn't need to be held back by the search for institutional validation, and that through experimentation and a little bit of chaos and collaboration, that the offices would become a kind of living and moving architecture, meaning that every space of the house changed in character, function, personality, depending on the residencies or the collective's use of the space. So this allowed for us to orchestrate collaborations that normally would never happen. For example, this piece, Domo, was in collaboration with local group of self-taught natural builders that build shelters out in small communities, out of sandbags. And we invited them to create a large sculptural piece based on their own creative investigation of material, structure, and space. So they were already living an extremely creative life just outside in communities with their own personal exploration of architecture and shelter. And there's during the inauguration. So artists began to work both within the space and within the public realm. And the conversation between contemporary art and social practice was never even entertained. This piece came out of a 2-week workshop with children shoe shiners from the Central Plaza. And after 2 weeks of working with gesso, we ended up with a 4-hour public intervention piece. So while others were, at the same time, collaborations would lead to works like this one, where the ideas of the body, disability, architectural structures were at play, as a large slab of cement was lifted by the audience with ropes and wooden cracking beams in an hour-long performance. So we couldn't do this here in the States because of liabilities and stuff, but we pulled it off. While some were exploring materials, public performance, and structures, others were organizing events for environmental organizations, NGOs, university classes, anarchist groups, dinners, debates, projections, concerts, seminars, workshops, and family events. So during this whole time, the offices were being used for showers by different indigenous groups that occupy the central plaza of San Cristobal. And this happens every month, every 3 months, in hopes of gaining some kind of international or local attention of the different causes. And so this piece here was in response of a 40-day political prisoner hunger strike, where we started painting portraits during the 40 days of the hunger strike with the family members that were occupying the Central Plaza. And just to show a little bit of the diversity of the groups that come in and go out of EDELO, this group formed within 3 weeks. And they based their work on theater based on Alejandro Jodorowsky's work, Psycho Magic, compared to this group that was exploring more of theater of the oppressed, a group of indigenous single women that shared a common experience of feeling displaced from their communities because they decided to search for work or an education in the bigger cities, and now they're performing in the rural areas of Chiapas. And sometimes we get great gifts here. We've been collaborating with Centro Hemispheric Institute based here at NYU, and they have a little spot in Chiapas. And they bring really great artists all year round, and here they brought the Yes Men. And here you have the Halliburton Survival Ball walking out of the EDELO, pushing a little kid out of the sidewalk.
This project was initiated by Rigo 23, a Portuguese artist based in San Francisco. He was inspired by the first EZLN Intergalactic Encuentro in 2006 that brought activists all over the world to Zapatista land. Rigo asked the mass Zapatistas if they were to be invited to an intergalactic summit from a faraway galaxy, how would they get there? He then offered to collectively build the space program and invited Zapatista painter Tomás to come up with the designs for the spaceship. And he came up with a corn cob. And so during this 6-month residency, where the United Nations used to be, turned into an autonomous intergalactic space program, where over 100 participants from carpenters, women's embroidery collectives, electricians, Zapatista painters, students, sculptors, and all kinds of builders set out to live and work within different periods of times at EDELO, taking over the entire building. So the space became a kind of school or laboratory, or an actual imaginary space program or control center. On your left, you see a 10-hour takeoff of the spaceship and a traditional Sental ceremony. And on your right, the spaceship lands at the Frank Gehry Disney Hall at the Red Cat Gallery in Los Angeles, where it was exhibited last summer.
Yeah, talk about contrast. And so just briefly, we got about 40 seconds. Our next resident is Black Panther artist, Minister of Culture, Emory Douglas. And our idea is just to bring him and to visit autonomous Zapatista communities and to really think about and compare the use of art, public performance or public display or demonstrations or protests or whatever you want to call it, that really challenges society's perceptions of normality or accepted behavior. And so we're really thinking about what the Black Panthers did and what the Zapatistas are doing now, and really trying to come up with an exhibition and publish a newsletter based on the Black Panther news service. And so what is all this for? What are we doing? Sometimes we ask ourselves. So it's about creating myths. Sometimes that's all we can do is create myths in order to deconstruct our own reality. And I guess we don't have much time, but I'll finish with this. Like the Zapatistas say, reconstructing our own reality in order to create worlds that may fit within a lot of worlds. Thank you very much.